Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz trumpeter John Lamkin. We talked to him from his home base in Baltimore, Maryland on April Fool's Day 2020, and it all felt like it wasn't real as the coronavirus quarantine was taking out live jazz. He spoke about his latest 2020 CD, John Lamkin Favorites, Jazz Quintet, Sextet, and reflected on a rich career he has had in music. The past, the present, and hope for the future were discussed. Dig.
So how you holding up with, where exactly are you at in the world?
I'm just outside of Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore County,
Gotcha.
in Maryland. Yeah, we're right outside the Baltimore line,
Gotcha.
Baltimore City line. Mm-hmm.
You holding up okay over there? How's everything unfolding up there?
Everything is good. I'm staying in. I'm practicing. I'm writing. My wife is convalescing, so I'm taking care of her. And I don't need to go. I don't need to go anywhere.
I got
some food. I went to the market yesterday, and so I got some food yesterday. I need to go get some vitamins. So I think when I go out today, after we get finished, I'm gonna put my mask on. I haven't been using the mask, but I haven't been going anywhere.
Yeah.
All the clubs are closed, the restaurants are closed. The liquor stores are open though. It's just liquor stores are essential businesses.
Yes. There's that's the thing that blows me away. You would figure in this modern day and era of America, if a pandemic comes, that liquor would be gone before toilet paper.
Right. Oh man. They would close the liquor stores, but I guess they figured that leave liquor stores open so everybody can anesthetize themselves. Since they're home.
Yep. But that is. Yeah. I was thinking the other day, when we survive all of this, we're going to have to rename our date system. BC is going to have to become before Coronas.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
Where are you now? You in Kansas City?
Yeah, we're in a suburb. Actually, I live in the hometown of Pat Metheny in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Okay.
I just moved in January, and everything hindsight. I actually got married last year in July and moved, and I think about all the things that we did before this happened, because anything that you're going to do this year, no matter when this is lifted, is going to totally be impacted by a cloud of uncertainty.
That's right. That is so true. That's so true. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But everything is closed.
Yeah, it's wild. But I figured, when this all happened, I was probably in shock like everyone else, and I think it's very essential for us to talk about music. I think it's very essential for the jazz musicians to have an oasis, to just at least, have a springboard to get back into that mentality, and I think these are good conversations to have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
how far are you from Kansas City? That's where Charlie Parker was born, right?
We're the home of Bird. Yeah, we're actually in the metro for Kansas City is quite large, but we're, from Lee Summit to downtown, we're 20 minutes away, and I go to 18 and Vine all the time, and we're out seeing shows, and they have a big statue back there on 18 and Vine to Bird, and
right.
Yeah, we're right there.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Kansas City. Wow.
Kansas City. Yeah. So, and everything's quiet here, and there's this scene in Kansas City, man. We've had a renaissance going for so long, and I've talked to some cats to get interviews out to hopefully get people to keep supporting them virtually, and it's just what I keep hearing from everybody is that the likelihood of it ever getting back to where it was before is going to be low. And it's just going to be hard, and as you probably very well know up there in Baltimore, man, all these businesses that are closed up, when are they going to get back, if they get back, and all of these guys,
that's right.
And especially in New York, with the cost of living as high as it is, there's a lot of musicians that may not be able to stay up there. I mean, I know one of the guys that I interviewed here is saxophonist Adam Larson, and he moved to Kansas City just about 4 months ago, and I'm sure he's probably happy he did because of the way that the economics are here versus New York, so.
Yeah.
It's,
I know you're aware of the fact that Wallace Roney passed.
Yes, and I saw that Mike Longo passed a couple weeks ago. I had him on the show, and then the Cameroonian saxophonist got COVID-19, so I'm really I'm really keeping my show going weekly as hard as it is, and I'm really trying to profile these cats that are unfortunately leaving us because of this disease and trying to give them their proper due. But yeah, Wallace will be on next week, and I will be sure to give him his proper props. But man, it's wild, you know, and that's the thing about this. It's hitting home in ways that I don't know that any of us thought were going to be imaginable.
Right. Absolutely.
You know.
Yes, indeed.
But at any rate, it's great to catch up with you to talk about the music under these, you know, wild circumstances, being a human being on this planet right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
it is crazy, yeah.
Let's talk about sunnier things here. Let's talk about your latest Quintet Sextet CD. Talk to me a little bit about this album.
Well, it's an album that I've been wanting to do for a long time. The bulk of my career has been in education, although I've played right straight through. And I recorded an album back in '84 of original tunes, and it was highly inspired by Miles, what Miles was doing, and not so much what Train was doing, but A Love Supreme was a sweet, and so the title tune was a suite, called it Hot, and it was actually 4 tunes that I put together to form a suite. But anyway, I wanted to get back to recording. I wanted to do another recording, and once I retired and came back to Baltimore, my life has really been crazy. When I got the gig at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I don't know if you read my or not.
Yes, I did.
But when I got the gig at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I did not leave Baltimore. I lived in Baltimore. My wife taught in Baltimore County. My kids were in school in Baltimore. And I didn't see uprooting the kids and taking them down to the Eastern Shore. So what I would do, man, I would get up in the morning, Monday morning, drive down to the Eastern Shore, 2.5-hour drive, teach my classes. And I had a little place to stay in Princess Anne. Princess Anne has a one stoplight down, okay, and then I'd come back on the weekends. So and I would play. I'd make gigs, but being that I wasn't in town during the week, a lot of the stuff that was happening during the week I couldn't be a part of. So I retired, and when I retired, I got a gig at a local restaurant, which is of course closed now. Well, it was closed early, but anyway. And I ran a jam session, okay? And so I had a lot of cats who would come through and play, and it was only one. It was the third Thursday, and I pushed it hard, man. Everybody pushed it, and I would have a crowd of people out. So that was the genesis of this band, all right. And when I take a break, I'd introduce the cats as my favorite musicians, all of them being my favorite musicians. Any musician who wanted to come out and sit in and play jazz was favorite of mine, But there was a core group of cats who, the drummer, Jesse Moody, I pretty much use him on a regular basis. Bob Buddha would come out, every now and again. I'd use him. There was other cats. Mike Graham was actually a former student of mine at university, and so I used him. And then there was a close friend of mine, and we kind of parted ways only because he lived about an hour or two away from me in the D.C. area. His name is Michael Harrison, and we played together in a band here in Baltimore. And I just love the way he played. He got that grease up in there, man. Them hog maws up in his lines, you know what I mean? The chitlins come out of his horn when he plays, man. So anyway, so that's the band I put together. Plus, I've always written, got away from writing when I was at university because, I had to write tests, and all that stuff, man. I had to prepare concerts, with the jazz band and so forth. So I got away from that. So retired, come back home, get the gig. So now I'm active, doing what I want to do, okay? So the next step was to record. And so I started writing tunes. And, I called up a trumpet player friend of mine who got his degree from Peabody here in Baltimore. He has a nice studio, and the name of the studio is the Heartwood Studio. His name is Ben Frock, trumpet player, good player, and a good studio. Called him up, price was right, I plopped some money down, and we went in and recorded, But if you notice, I got a lot of people on the CD because I wanted to keep that same vibe of the musicians coming through playing with me at that jam session, which I called the Jazz Workshop after Mingus's Jazz Workshop in New York. So that's where it came from. I called it the Jazz Workshop. So anyway, so I wrote the tunes. I had my son on it. My son is a professional musician. He played with everybody from Lionel Hampton to Kenny Garrett, and he's a regular with Benny Golson, So, and I couldn't get him all the time, but I definitely wanted to get him on my CD. My son-in-law, who has his degree in professional musicianship, I wanted him on the CD, so I had him. My brother, who retired from the University of Virgin Islands, where he was there for almost 30 years, is a trombone player. I wanted him on it, because, as a matter of fact, one of his tunes is on it, VMW, that we play pretty well. We play pretty regularly now. I wanted my wife on it because that's how we met. We met in a band when I was at South Carolina State, majoring in music education, to run around South Carolina on the weekends playing. My wife was in a band that I subsequently joined, and we got married. So I wanted her on it because we've been playing together ever since. And so that's the backstory to this CD, and then I wrote this tune, Transitions. I was inspired by Horace Silver's writing. I just love his writing. I mean, some of the later stuff that he did, off those albums, Pencil Packin' Papa, the United States of Mind, Total Response, all those albums that he wrote later on is like Silver and Brass, Silver and Wood, Hard Bop, Grand Pop, all that stuff. Now the earlier stuff is really, really good too, But I got into his writing, and so I got inspired, and I went to the piano, and wrote this tune, Transitions. I didn't have a name for it at the time, but it starts in one key, transitions to another key in the bridge, and ends in a different key. So that's the transition. So that's how I came up with the name Transitions, But anyway, so that's the backstory to that CD. I have another tune on it called "The Market," and that tune is named for a market in Baltimore. Baltimore used to have several open air markets, and you could go in and you could get all kinds of things. You get all your meats, you could get all your upholstery, you could get your all of your cakes and pies and stuff, your bakery stuff. It was really, really great. There are not that many markets now, and that tune, "The Market," was dedicated to that space that had live music in it for years, man, and was free. And so they would hire different bands. They had like a stage area. They would hire different bands on Friday and Saturday afternoon from 12 to 2. And so I used to get a lot of gigs down there, man, and people would dance, man. They'd come in and dance to everything we played, man. We could be playing 7 Steps to Heaven or Black Nile or something, you know what I mean? And these people out there dancing, right? So yeah. They would come to me and they'd say, after they doing all the dancing, Song for My Father, whatever, they dance. They come to me and say, "Would you play for something for us to dance to?" I'm like, y'all been dancing all this time. So finally I said, okay. I said, look, next time I come in here, I'm going to write something for y'all to dance to. And when I come in here, it's going to be yours. And so I wrote "The Market." and brought it in there, man, and they just carried on, man. They had a good time, you know. And I think they enjoyed it because I told them I was going to write it for them, and I did, and I named it The Market, and the people, you know, got off on it. But anyway, so that's the backstory to this CD that I put together.
Well, let's go back into the backstory here and talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how you got involved with jazz.
Man, I grew up in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I grew up in Atlantic City. I was born in 45, so I'm old, right? So, man, when I started coming out, man, I guess I might have been about 13, 14. My parents lived on what would considered to be the Strip in Atlantic City. Part of the Strip, it was Kentucky Avenue. So if you walked from Kentucky Avenue, from where we lived, and you walked what was considered to be in town up to Atlantic Avenue, you'd pass all these bars and clubs that had music in them, live music. And the block from Arctic Avenue up to Atlantic Avenue, back in those days, you know, there was a lot of music going on, and I used to go to church. My mom and Pop, they were churchgoers. We were Episcopalians, okay? And the thing about it is, they had a service every Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, and you know, and I was an altar boy, so I would go to the 7 o'clock service, and the reason I go to 7 o'clock service is because on Sunday morning, particularly in the summertime, they had these breakfast shows. And I couldn't wait till the service was over. It was only 45 minutes. I couldn't wait till the service was over, and I would leave the church and go right down to Kentucky Avenue and hang on Kentucky Avenue, walk up and down Kentucky Avenue and listen to all this music, because the breakfast shows were about to get out. And when that would happen, they would open the doors. They would open the doors to the Club Harlem. They would open the doors to Gracie Little Belmont, all these places. And the musicians would be playing. Oh, my God, where they playing? And I just sit out there. Sometimes I sit on the stoop, you know, or stand out in front of the club and look in. And I got drawn into the music that way, right? And then when I get to high school, there were several guys in high school who were into the music. A train was beginning to make a name for himself. Miles Davis group was happening, you know, and we would we'd buy records and sit down and listen to this stuff. And then there was a group of guys in high school called themselves the Gentlemen of Jazz, and they asked me to play trumpet. These guys were older than I was, but they knew that I was trying to play some jazz, and so they would ask me to come and play, and I'd play with them. Now, mind you, you know, I'm in the band, and I'm taking music courses in high school. I took music theory in high school, man, and nobody was teaching music theory other than that I knew. As a matter of fact, when I went to college, I knew so much music theory, I never went to class except for the test. And I go to the test and ace the test and go back home and get to bed, right? You know, but anyway, we were writing tunes then, man, and then with Ornette Coleman was out, it come out, man, with the pianoless quartet, you know, and him and Don Cherry, and you know, I think Pete LaRocca was in that band, and I forgot who the bass player was. But anyway, so we started writing tunes, and I started writing tunes for a saxophone player, bass player, and drummer. You know what I mean? They'd come around my garage, bring the instruments, and play. So you know, and I'm in high school doing this, man. And you know, I got a few gigs in Atlantic City, but when I became, you know, time for college, I went down to South Carolina, you know, and then I joined. Well, actually, man, look, I was about to leave South Carolina State, but then a friend of mine came. Well, it wasn't a friend of mine then. He was a guy from Orangeburg. He was a saxophone player. And he came, I remember when he came into the band room, he lived there, and so everybody knew who he was. And I'm like, you know, who is this cat? And I was so drugged because there was nobody down there really playing the music that I had been accustomed to in Atlantic City. So when he walked in, he looked hip. I'm like, well, who is this cat? You know, he ought to know something. And so So then I think Prof said, well, come on, pull your horn out and sit in with the band. Well, it was the marching band, it was concert band, something like that. But he reached down, he opened his horn, it was the alto, and he pulled out this white alto saxophone, plastic. And when I saw that, I'm like, this is the cat, because the only white plastic alto saxophone I saw was on that Coleman's album, Change of the Century. He got it on his shoulder, right? And so I said, this is the guy that I need to become friends with. Well, I did. And he had come back from the service. He had been living in D.C., in New York and D.C., and he came back home. And then he put the band together. And when he put the band together, he got his homegirl in the band, who subsequently became my wife. So that's the kind of backstory. That's the kind of Atlantic City backstory. So I got into this music very early when I was in Atlantic City, listening to all these cats, and they would come to town. I mean, Stanley Turrentine would come to town. You know, Sammy Davis would come to town. You know, there was a club. You know, now we're talking 50s, so it was the black side of town, the white side of town. And the white side of town, there was a club called the 500 Club. You know, and all those cats, Stan Getz and all them. You know, and what's the cat's name? Chet Baker and all them used to come up there to the 500 Club. You know, and all those bands, Benny Goodman's band, all of them would come up there. But down where we live, Sammy Davis used to come, you know, and the guy who ran the band in the club Harlem, they would Diz, so Diz would come through every now and again. You know what I mean? So it was really amazing, man. It was amazing in Atlantic City. Atlantic City was like a small New York, you know, particularly in the summertime. And so that's where I cut my teeth, man.
So yeah, that's right on.
New Jersey.
Yeah. What do you like best about being a professional musician?
Well, what I like about it, I like to play, man. I like to play for people, you know, and I like to see people enjoy what I'm doing, you know, and you know, I like to play jazz. That's what I do. I mean, I played everything. I played, you know, classical music. I played church music. You know, I played rock and roll, you know, rhythm and blues. I've had, you know, all kinds of bands, man. You know, top 40 bands. I've done it all, man. But being a professional musician, number one, I like getting paid. That, you know what I'm saying? That's very important. Okay, but I like it when I go in a club and there are people who want what I'm doing. You know, want to hear what I'm doing, what the band is doing, what we are playing. You know, they want to hear the music. They want to hear jazz. And that's what I like when I go in, man, and the audience is into what we're doing and they're clapping and you know what I mean, and hollering and moving to what we're doing. Man, look, I wrote a tune that I plan to record. You know, my next record is called Homage. You know, and what the basis of the next recording is going to be paying homage to all the jazz musicians and jazz clubs in Baltimore who that are not there anymore. You know, and maybe when this album comes out, maybe just some of the ones that are there now are now going to be, you know, in Baltimore as a result of the BC. You know, but anyway. So I played the tune, man, and there was this lady who was there with a friend of mine, and so the friend of mine told me, said, well, man, she didn't like jazz all that much, but she'll come because you know she wants to come with me, she wants to be with me, so I'm gonna bring her. So I was okay. So we get into the tune, man, and now what I did was I wrote the tune. Tune has some nice changes to play on, you know, and the guys seem to like the melody and whatnot. It's a ballad. I haven't written too many ballads. But what happened was, I'm playing the tune, and I happen to glance over to her, and she's bobbing. She's into the music. I mean, she's listening, you know, and she don't know nothing about changes. She doesn't hardly know, you know, what I'm playing when I'm improvising or anybody else. But the fact that she was bopping her head. I could see her body moving to the music. That's what I enjoy about being in professional music. Because, man, actually, you know what we are, man? We are musicians, but we are also ministers to the people who are out there. Because what we end up doing is when we play, we take away for a brief minute or two the pressures and trials and tribulations that whoever is listening to us is going through. Because now they're in the music. I'm pulling them out of themselves, and I'm pulling them into the music. You know what I mean? Into a world that is free of all the kinds of troubles that they may experience. Now, of course, when we get finished and they go out and go home, they go right back to whatever it is that life has in store for them. You know, but that's what I enjoy about being a musician, man. You know what I mean? And if I can do that, if I can give somebody some happiness through my horn and through my music and through what we're doing, then that's what I want to do. Just like I got happy, you know, I got inspired, you know, I got turned on listening to these guys play. I mean, I remember the first time I heard Lee Morgan, you know, man, I'm like, what is this? You know, and Lee was playing with Jimmy Smith. They were playing the sermon. As a matter of fact, my parents got that CD for me, probably because the word the sermon. They figured, you know, it had some religious undertones, you know. But when I heard that, man, that turned me on. And then Blakey, when Lee Morgan was in Blakey's band, man, oh man, that stuff really got me, you know. And I wanted to listen. I wanted to do that. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do, you know. And that's
right on.
You know, that's probably where it is.
So my final question to you is this: in this timely world that we live in right now, where the jazz is actually silent live, what are you hoping the audience that comes back to see jazz live gets from this experience that is revelatory, that's kind of an epiphany for them when they come back to see live jazz?
Well, you know, live jazz is an art music, you know, and that's jazz is an art music. I mean, it doesn't have to be live; it can be recorded. You know, it's art music, and it does take discipline, you know, to listen and to enjoy. I like to say it's like drinking a red blend or a Cabernet or, you know, a Pinot Noir. You know, you have to develop a taste for those wines, man, you know. And once you develop the taste for the wines, then you can really enjoy those wines. It's, you know, it's the same thing with jazz. Once the taste has been developed, then people can really get into it and really enjoy it, you know. But it has to be accessible, and that's the big problem. So what would I want from people? You know, I want people to come out and be able to listen and enjoy, you know, with no pretenses. You know, just sit down and have a meal, you know, and I don't care if you talk, you know what I mean? You know, just don't talk too loud. Don't so loud that other people can't enjoy what we're doing. You know what I mean? You know, and have a good time with the music. And what I'm going to try to do is to create something for which people can have a time with. You follow what I'm saying? You know, so that's what I would want people to coming back to the music to have and to enjoy. You know, to
right
enjoy
on.
the music. And yeah.
Yeah, that's right on. John, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today in this very strange, trying time for our planet, and keep on making that great music.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored that you would call me and interview me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Baltimore, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to John for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.